With the 2024 MLB season a week underway, some players are having incredible seasons while others are struggling. I figured that since people will be talking about potential All-Stars within the next few weeks, I should discuss who I think is the most likely player to make the All-Star game from every team. I'm not going to only pick players who have had great first weeks of the 2024 season because most of these players will cool off. I'm going to keep it 100% unbiased and give the most likely representative of the All-Star game from every team. Without further ado, let's get into my picks. Starting with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I'm taking Corbin Carroll. I was pretty tempted to take Zach Gallen here, but I think Carroll is the safe bet to make the team. Since pitchers usually only make about 16 to 17 starts by the time the All-Star teams are picked, a few bad starts could knock an ace like Gallen out of the game. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Carroll will make the team barring a massive slump. Even if the power isn't there in the first half, he's a pretty consistent contact hitter, which should keep his batting average pretty high and give more opportunities to steal bases. I expect him to start the game from the National League. Next up is the Atlanta Braves, and I'm picking Spencer Strider. Before you call me crazy in the comments, hear me out. Ronald Acuna Jr. dealt with meniscus irritation during spring training and missed a few games. While he's been healthy so far this season, I think Strider is a safer bet. He's at worst the second or third best pitcher in the National League and looked unhittable this spring. If Acuna didn't deal with an injury in spring training, I'd definitely pick him here. But because of it, I think Strider has a higher chance to make the All-Star team. Moving on to the Baltimore Orioles, I'm going with Adley Rutschman. Elite catchers are a rare commodity in Major League Baseball, especially catchers that play every single day at a high level. That's exactly what Rutschman is, and he's the only American League catcher in my eyes that's considered a superstar. He's fantastic both offensively and defensively, and plays for an awesome Orioles team, which makes him look that much better. The next best catcher besides Adley in the American League is probably Cal Raleigh or Yainer Diaz, and he's much better than both of them. I'd be shocked if he isn't starting the All-Star game this year. Now we're on to the Boston Red Sox, and I'm taking Rafael Devers. This was a very easy choice. Devers is the only real star in the Red Sox in my opinion, and just looking at their roster, he very well might end up being their only All-Star this year. While he's missed a few games with shoulder soreness already, he won't need a trip to the injured list. He posted an OPS over 850 in 4 of the last 5 seasons, and is one of the best third basemen in the league. With Gunnar Henderson playing at shortstop to start the season, that should only increase his chances to make the All-Star team. Up next is the Chicago Cubs, and I'm picking Cody Bellinger. With Justin Steele's injury forcing him to miss all of April, that essentially takes him out of All-Star game consideration. The next best player on the team is either Cody Bellinger or Dansby Swanson. I'm opting to go with Bellinger as the most likely All-Star due to shortstop being a very talented position in the National League right now. Bellinger completely turned his career around last year at Chicago, as he shortened his swing and focused on putting the ball in play more to utilize his speed. With his defense also being elite, I think Bellinger is the most likely Cub to make the All-Star team. Moving on to the Chicago White Sox, I'm taking Luis Robert Jr. With Dylan Cease no longer on the team, this was an easy choice. Robert Jr. is the closest player to a superstar on the team, with there not being another star on the roster. He had the best season of his career last year and has already hit a couple of home runs this season. The White Sox have so little quality Major League talent that Robert Jr. probably only needs to have a decent first half to make the All-Star team. One player has to make the game from every team, so unless he gets traded or injured, I think he'll make the game. Now we're on to the Cincinnati Reds, and I'm going with Alexis Diaz. This was easily the toughest decision I've had to make so far. The Reds have a ton of very good players on the roster, but don't have a clear star that is a sure bet to make the All-Star team. Matt McClain would probably be my pick here if he didn't undergo shoulder surgery last week. While I'm very high on Elly De La Cruz, there's so many good shortstops in the National League already. With Devin Williams out for the first 2 months of the season, Alexis Diaz's odds to make the All-Star team have gone up. While his brother Edwin will make it more difficult, how cool would it be to see both of them on the same All-Star team? He's a very talented closer and is my most likely Red to make the game. Next up is the Cleveland Guardians, and I'm picking Jose Ramirez. As good as Shane Bieber is, this should surprise literally no one. J-Ram has made 5 of the last 6 All-Star games and has posted an OPS over 800 in each of the last 8 seasons. He's probably the most underrated superstar in baseball every single season. I don't know why the media doesn't cover him that much, because he's the definition of a consistent superstar. He's also finished top 10 in MVP voting in 6 of the last 7 seasons, so I'd be shocked if he doesn't make the All-Star game. Moving on to the Colorado Rockies, I'm taking Nolan Jones. With how bad the Rockies are, they'll probably only have 1 All-Star this season. While I think Chris Bryant will end up having a bounce-back season, Nolan Jones is definitely their best player right now. He had a great rookie year in 2023, and looks to play a full big league season for the first time in 2024. While he could have a sophomore slump, Coors Field is very hitter-friendly, and should propel his numbers up a bit. The Rockies very well could end up with a random player as their All-Star, but I think Jones will end up being the representative at the game. Now we're on to the Detroit Tigers, and I'm going with Tarek Skubal. A lot of people predicted Skubal to win AL Cy Young before the season started, and I don't hate the prediction. He posted a 2.8 ERA in 15 starts last year, and 6 shutout innings on opening day this year. With the Tigers ballpark being fairly big, and them not having an offensive superstar, Skubal is definitely their most likely All-Star. By the end of the season, I wouldn't be shocked if he's viewed as a top 5 pitcher in baseball. His stuff is that good in my opinion. Up next is the Houston Astros, and I'm picking Jose Altuve. While Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, and Alex Bregman are all phenomenal, Altuve is still playing like he's in his prime. His offensive numbers really haven't fallen off at almost 34 years old, and he plays at a position that has few stars. Him and Marcus Semien are the only second baseman in the American League that I would really consider to be superstars. Because of that, I don't think it'll take a monster year out of Altuve to make the game. Moving on to the Kansas City Royals, I'm taking Bobby Witt Jr. This pick was a no-brainer. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the best young upcoming superstars in the league and is seemingly getting better every time I watch him. While the Royals as a whole are a lot better than last year, there's really no other stars on the team besides Witt Jr. While I like Seth Lugo and Michael Walker to have good seasons for the team, this was probably the easiest choice I've made so far. Even though shortstop is a stacked position, I will be shocked if he doesn't make the All-Star team. Now we're on to the Los Angeles Angels, and I'm going with Mike Trout. Now that Shohei Ohtani is no longer on the team, Mike Trout is the clear best player on the Angels. While he's dealt with his share of injuries over the past few years, he's so far ahead of the second best player on the team that I couldn't choose anyone else here. At worst, he's probably a top 10 player in baseball, maybe top 15. As long as he's healthy, he'll be starting for the American League of the All-Star game this season. Next up is the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I'm picking Mookie Betts. While Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman are also on the team, along with some elite pitchers like Tyler Glasnow and Bobby Miller, Mookie has the best chance of making the All-Star game. Despite playing a new position this year, he's playing fantastic right now, as he's already accumulated 1 F4 this season. He's pretty clearly a top 5 player in the sport at the moment, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I'm sure Freddie and Shohei will both make the game, but Mookie is a guaranteed lock to make it. Moving on to the Miami Marlins, I'm taking Jesus Luzardo. The Marlins are dealing with tons of injuries to their pitching staff right now. Sandy Alcantara is out for the entire season, while Yuri Perez, Braxton Garrett, and Edward Cabrera are all on the injured list. I was tempted to pick Luis Ariz here, but Jesus Luzardo is going to need to step up for the team big time this season, and I think he will. He's one of the most underrated pitchers in the league right now, and the Marlins wouldn't have made the playoffs last year without him. I think he'll be in the Cy Young conversation by the end of the year. Now we're on to the Milwaukee Brewers, and I'm going with Freddie Peralta. While Christian Yelich has long been the best offensive player on the team, Peralta is one of the best pitchers in the sport right now. He's 27 years old and is in the prime of his career, and without Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff on the team this year, he's got a clear spotlight on him. If the Brewers are going to get back to the playoffs this season, they're going to need a Cy Young caliber season at Peralta, and I think he's capable of winning the award. Up next are the Minnesota Twins, and I'm picking Pablo Lopez. With Royce Lewis hurt and Carlos Correa not being as good as he used to be, Lopez was the obvious choice here. He's probably the best pitcher in the AL Central, and he hasn't missed a start over the past 2 seasons, accumulating over 6 B-WAR in that span. Being in that division, he gets to face weaker offenses more than other pitchers, so his numbers should be lower as a result. He finished 7th in AL Cy Young voting last year, as he solidified himself as an ace. I think he'll make the All-Star team this year. Moving on to the New York Mets, I'm taking Edwin Diaz. It was tough not picking Francisco Lindor here, but with Mookie Betts playing shortstop this year, I just couldn't choose him. When healthy, Edwin Diaz is the best closer in the game. While he missed all of 2023, he put up a 1.31 ERA and .84 WHIP in 62 innings in 2022. He finished 9th in NL Cy Young voting that season, which is fantastic for a closer. Even if he's not as dominant in 2024 as he was in 2022, he should be one of the best 3 closers in the National League, which should make him an All-Star. Now we're on to the New York Yankees, and I'm going with Juan Soto. This is not a knock on Aaron Judge, but Juan Soto is the better player in my opinion. He's been fantastic in his first week as a Yankee, and will be a free agent after the season ends. That being said, that should be extra motivation for him to have a monster season in order to maximize his worth in the offseason. I'm sure both him and Judge will end up making the All-Star team, but if I had to choose the most likely Yankee to make the team, it has to be Soto this year. Next up is the Oakland A's, and I'm picking Zach Geloff. There's really no good choice when it comes to the A's, so I'm going with who I think is their best player. Geloff hit 14 home runs and 20 doubles while stealing 14 bases and posting an 840 OPS in 69 games as a rookie last year. While Marcus Semien and Jose Altuve are both better than him, someone has to make the All-Star team from the A's, so why not just put their best player on the team? With these horrible teams, it could very well be a random player making the game, but I'll go with Geloff here. Moving on to the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm taking Zach Wheeler. As loaded as the Phillies lineup is, Wheeler is probably that team's most valuable player right now. He's made 90 starts over the past 3 seasons while having basically the best 3 years of his career. He's posted a FIP under 3 in this span while posting a 2.42 ERA and 6 playoff starts for the Phillies. As good as Bryce Harper and Trey Turner are, Wheeler is the safest bet to make the All-Star team. He's incredibly consistent, and I don't see him having many poor starts in the first half. Now we're on to the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm going with Brian Reynolds. I really wanted to pick O'Neal Cruz here, but I think it'll just be easier for Reynolds as an outfielder to make the All-Star team. The lowest OPS he's posted in a full season in his career is 790. Mitch Keller's a pretty good pitcher for the team too, but I just don't think he's as consistent as Reynolds is. The Pirates have started out hot this season, and if they continue this great run for a while, I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 players I've mentioned make the All-Star team. Up next are the San Diego Padres, and I'm picking Fernando Tatis Jr. Now that Juan Soto's off the team, Tatis is the easy choice here. He was the best defensive player in the league last season, posting 29 defensive runs saved and winning the National League Platinum Glove. While his offensive numbers took a dive last year, I definitely think he'll post an OPS around 900 this season. Combining that with awesome defense, I don't see how he doesn't start the All-Star game somewhere in the outfield for the National League. He's my pick to win NL MVP this year, and I think he has a monster season. Moving on to the San Francisco Giants, I'm taking Logan Webb. While the Giants drastically improved their roster this offseason, Webb is still their best player. He's been an elite starting pitcher for about 3 seasons now, and has somehow never made the All-Star team. With the ball dying at night games in San Francisco, pitchers like Webb have an advantage over batters. I'm a big fan of Jung-Hoo Lee, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to put up monster numbers in pitcher-friendly Oracle Park. Time will tell, but I'll be surprised if Webb isn't an All-Star this year. Now we're on to the Seattle Mariners. I'm going with Julio Rodriguez. Again, this was the obvious choice. J-Rod is one of the best players in the sport right now at only 23 years old. His 11.6 B-WAR since the start of the 2022 season is top 10 in the sport. He's basically guaranteed for 25 home runs and 20 stolen bases every season, as the talent is limitless with him. As good as George Kirby, Luis Castillo, and Logan Gilbert are, J-Rod is the lock to make the All-Star game. He had a down first half last season and still made the game. I hope he ends up in the MVP conversation by the end of the year. Next up is the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm picking Nolan Arenado. This was a very tough one, as there isn't a standout superstar in the Cardinals right now. Both Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt have declined over the past year, and Sonny Gray is already hurt. Outside of Austin Riley, Finally, Arenado still might be the second best third baseman in the National League, with Manny Machado DHing this year. While he might not be the offensive or defensive superstar he once was, he's still a very productive player, and third base is pretty weak in the National League. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm taking Yandy Diaz. With injuries to the top 3 pitchers in the Rays starting rotation, Diaz is their best player right now. No disrespect to Randy Arozarena, but Diaz has been better over the last 2 seasons. He's posted 8.6 BWAR since the start of the 2022 season, as he finished 6th place in AL MVP voting last year. With the crop of first basemen being pretty weak in the American League, a good first half could very well result in him starting in the All-Star game. He's easily one of the most underrated superstars in the league right now. Now on to the Texas Rangers, and I'm going with Corey Seager. While this team is loaded with stars, Seager has an argument to be a top 3 player in baseball right now. Last season, he had one of the best seasons of anyone in recent memory. He recorded 6.9 BWAR in not even 3/4 of the season, while going on to win ALCS MVP, World Series MVP, and finishing 2nd in AL MVP voting. This team will likely have at least 5 All-Stars, but Seager is a lock to make the team barring an injury. He's my pick to win AL MVP this season. Up next is the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm picking Kevin Gausman. As good as Vladdy and Bo Bichette are, Gausman has been a top 5 starting pitcher in baseball over the past few seasons. He's finished top 10 in Cy Young voting in each of the last 3 seasons, while not missing a single start in that span. He's the clear ace of the Blue Jays, and is one of the best pitchers in baseball. While Vladdy and Bo will probably make the All-Star team too, Gausman is so consistent, and I just can't pick against him right now. Finally, we have the Washington Nationals, and I'm taking Lane Thomas. While CJ Abrams and Mackenzie Gore are 2 good young players with lots of potential, I think Thomas is the most likely player on the team to be an All-Star. Abrams is playing at a shortstop position that features Mookie Betts and Francisco Lindor in the National League, so it would take a monster year from him to make the team. Gore is good, but I don't see him being good enough to be an All-Star this year. Thomas is an outfielder who has much more opportunities to make the team. If he posts an OPS over 750 this year, that should be enough to make the team, given that one player from every team has to be an All-Star. That's gonna do it for the video today. I had a lot of fun making my picks for this video and choosing what players to go with. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button for more content. Leave a comment down below if you disagree with any of my picks, and follow me on other social media platforms, links are in the description. Thanks for watching again, and I hope to see you in the next video.